All right, so moving on to the final segment, I'll be sharing my Monday Night Football prediction between the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions. Storylines heading into this game that could be in the contention for Game of the Year. Which team walks out of Baltimore with bragging rights and a statement victory on prime time football, Monday Night Football? The Baltimore Ravens are a powerhouse team in the AFC North. The Detroit Lions are a powerhouse team in the NFC North. Both are coming off impressive blowout victories a week ago in Week 2 action. The Detroit Lions blew out the Chicago Bears, put a 50-burger on their head, and then the Baltimore Ravens put a 40-burger plus on the Cleveland Browns' head. So both of these teams are picking up steam. They're building momentum. They're starting to build up their confidence after starting off 0-1. Now we're going to see which team walks out of Baltimore with a statement victory in primetime football between the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions. Next storyline is, can the Detroit Lions seek their revenge? The Lions have not beaten the Ravens in I don't even know how long. I think they only beaten them once in head-to-head history. But the Lions, last time they came to Baltimore, and the last time these two respective teams played in 2023, it was the Ravens that walked away with bragging rights, and they blew out the Detroit Lions, won that game by a score of 38-6 in their last outing against the Baltimore Ravens. So are the Detroit Lions going to get their revenge? Is this the revenge game against the Baltimore Ravens? Last storyline is, can Lamar Jackson continue his hot streak against NFC teams? Lamar Jackson is marvelous in the regular season, but something that stands out, and it's his marvelous NFC record. Since being the starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, I don't know how this is still a great stat like this. Lamar has 24 victories and 2 losses against NFC teams since being the starter for the Baltimore Ravens. That's insane. Nearly unheard of. And the only 2 quarterbacks to defeat Lamar Jackson head-to-head play that came from the NFC, you date back to the game a few years ago when the New York Giants defeated the Baltimore Ravens when Daniel Jones was still their starting quarterback. Then you dated back to last season when the Philadelphia Eagles came to town to defeat the Baltimore Ravens when they had Jalen Hurts as their starting quarterback, or Jalen Hurts that is the starting quarterback for the Eagles. So those are only 2 teams to defeat Lamar Jackson head-to-head competition in the NFC, which is crazy. But let's get into the game plans for this game. The Detroit Lions, they got to air the football out. They got to get going their passing game and air the football out. Jared Goff and the Lions offensively assaulted the Chicago Bears, especially in the passing department last week when they put up 51 points on the Chicago Bears. I mean, Jared Goff played phenomenal in the home opener for the Detroit Lions. He had a total of 334 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and St. Brown at the wide receiver position had a total of 3 receiving touchdowns that helped the Lions put up 51 points against the Chicago Bears last week. So the fact that 52 points, 52 points. So the fact that they've gained success passing the football when the offense struggled week 1 against the Packers, against a Baltimore Ravens secondary that has not won me over just yet. I think they'll have a top 5 defense by the end of the season, but we've seen how they collapsed in the fourth quarter of that game. Week 1 against the Buffalo Bills, the secondary got complacent. They were getting burnt, and they were missing out on their assignments, not being able to lock down receivers. The Lions got a really good receiving core, a better receiving core than what the Buffalo Bills have had, what the Cleveland Browns have had from what they've seen in the first 2 weeks of football. So I think the Detroit Lions should put the foot on the gas pedal, come straight out, airing out the football against this Baltimore Ravens secondary. Next, the Lions should run the football. The Lions find success when you get the running game going, and that can open up the playbook for Jared Goff and the play action for some play action looks down the field. So I think the running back, the 1-2 punch of Gibbs and David Montgomery, Sonic and Knuckles, they got to get going in the running game. And I think if they could get going running the football, you get everything going. You get the best of both worlds, like Hannah Montana used to say. Get the passing game going, get the running game going, especially in the running game. This is going to chew time off the clock to keep Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens off the field. You're in control of the ball game. And this gives their defense a breather, as you're going to have to ask them to step up and stop Lamar Jackson and this really good Baltimore Ravens offense several times in this game. And last but not least, this one is very important for the Detroit Lions if they want to win this game. convert on third down. First 2 weeks of football, the Lions are 23rd in the league with a third down conversion rate of 36%. That is not good in the first 2 weeks of football. So if you're going to get a big statement victory on the road against the Ravens, you definitely got to convert on third down. I just think as good as this offense is, now I get it, Ben Johnson is no longer calling the plays, but they should not be 23rd in the league and third down rates in the first 2 weeks of football, only converting on 36% of their third down conversions in the first 2 weeks of football. I think this offense is just too good. Unacceptable stat, but they got to convert the third downs against the Baltimore Ravens if they plan to win this game. Now, as for the Ravens, I think the Ravens, the Ravens got to create pressure on the Detroit Lions offensive line. Now, the Lions, last year I would probably say they had the second best offensive line behind the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. This year's a different story. We're seeing the offensive line a little shuffled. Their center retired during the offseason. So the offensive line doesn't look as strong and dominant to me just yet in the first 2 weeks of football. So I think the Ravens front seven, the pass rush, should put the pressure on the Detroit Lions offensive line. Pressures, I think if you can pressure Jared Goff and have him under stress, I think you could win this ball game. I mean, it looked like that was the blueprint for the Packers week 1 against the Lions. The Ravens, last week against the Browns, they had 2 sacks, and they had 21 pressures against Joe Flacco. That could be the blueprint for the Ravens to win this game if they create pressure with their pass rush, getting home to Jared Goff, having him under stress, putting him under pressure as the game goes on. Keep beating them up at the line of scrimmage. Next, I think the Ravens need to run the football. The RPO is unstoppable with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And for some reason, Derrick Henry did not have a good game against the Cleveland Browns last week. And for someone that put my money on him as a sports bettor, I was very surprised that he only had 23 rushing yards against the Cleveland Browns. Crazy stat. But I think he's going to get back on track. I think he's going to run the football. You get Derrick Henry going, then that opens the read options for Lamar Jackson. And then if you want to load up the box, then that opens up the passing game for Lamar Jackson, the rest of the Baltimore Ravens offense to have success down the field. And last but not least, I think the Ravens got to play for all 4 quarters of football. All three phases of the football got to be locked in. Offense, defense, and special teams. Cannot afford to blow a fourth quarter lead against a really good Detroit Lions team. They cannot afford to do it. I think the Baltimore Ravens got to be locked in for all 4 quarters. 60 minutes on offense, defense, and special teams to get a statement victory against the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. But with that being said, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win this game by a score of 31-24. I think this could be in game of the year contention for Monday Night Football between the Ravens and the Lions. I like the Ravens to win this game. I think the Ravens will find a way to win this game. Lamar Jackson just turns it up against NFC teams. And it's crazy that he has an outstanding record of 24 victories and 2 losses against NFC teams as the starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens will have success offensively in the passing game and the running game. I think they're going to open it up. Todd Monken is starting to prove why he's one of the best offensive play callers in the National Football League. I think he's going to have success against this Detroit Lions defense. And another key ingredient is the pass rush. I think the Baltimore Ravens pass rush could have their way against a Detroit Lions offense that's not looking as strong or as dominant as we're accustomed to seeing them. Last year, I think they had one of the best offensive lines of football. This year, I'm not really seeing that. They had some changes up front, but I think the pass rush could get home to Jared Goff. I think that could be a key ingredient for the Ravens winning this game. I think they should also create turnovers on the defensive side of the ball, get stops to slow down the Lions offense. I touched up on it a few moments ago. The Lions are 23rd in the league, only converting on 36% of their third down conversions. They could get the stops, get some turnovers. The defense can put the pressure on Jared Goff, get some sacks, and the Ravens cash in on those opportunities offensively. I think the Ravens can win this game, but I think it's going to be a tight game. Give me the Ravens to win this game 31-24. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode.